Friends, are you planning a Ladakh bike ride or Spiti Valley bike ride and wondering about tackling those dreaded water crossings or nallas or overflowing rivers up there on your trip? Well, water crossings are one of the most exciting parts of a motorcycle off-roading experiences in Ladakh, Spiti Valley, Zanskar Valley or other remote parts of the Himalayas. Of course, it can be a scary experience, especially if you are not from the hills or you are a first timer and not used to the enthusiasm of water flowing across a sharp road at those dizzying heights. So today in this Express FAQ series on traveling to Ladakh, I'm going to talk about this topic in detail and share some very important tips and tricks that you can follow when tackling a water crossing on these remote Himalayan trips. So let's get started. Jule friends, if you are new to my channel, my name is Dheeraj and I help plan better trips to the Himalayas. Well, when traveling to Ladakh, Spiti Valley, Zanskar Valley, Pangi Valley or other remote corners of the Himalayas, often you will see that there will be a queue of riders waiting to cross a difficult water crossing or a nala which is flowing across the road. And it is no surprise that there is a queue as well after crossing that tricky water crossing. These delays make sense as bikers, even the experienced one, are always in two minds before water crossing and after crossing it as well. But why? Well, because your vehicle, be it a bike or a car, will require some checks to ensure nothing untoward has happened during the water crossing, especially those furious ones which might be a pain in the journey ahead. For instance, you might need to assess the situation for water in the engine or getting drenched in the cold water, which is never a fun either. So now that you understand that why caution is required, let us look at some of the important tips that will help you tackle these water crossings and have a safe bike ride up there in the remote Himalayas. And I'll cover all these important tips in different phases of tackling these water crossings, especially those ferocious ones. Let us first look at some of the most common tips related to water crossings in the Himalayas that you should always keep in mind before even reaching one. Number 1, you should always plan to cross a water crossing as early as possible in the morning, especially the ones that you already know will cause trouble on your route. Classic example of these water crossings are Gramfu Batal Road in Spiti Valley, Maling Nala in Kinnor Valley, Bogotu Nala in Pangi Valley and some sections of Manali Leh Highway. As the sun rises, the snow melts faster, especially around noon, and this snow melt leads to a heavier flow of water which increases the difficulty and intensifies these water crossings. Number 2, as an added safety measure, you should always avoid such remote Himalayan trips during end of July or August period when the monsoon is at its peak up there in northern India. I have a dedicated video on planning a monsoon trip to Ladakh or Spiti Valley. Please check that out to know why I say so. Number 3, overconfidence can be your biggest enemy up there in the high mountains. Always respect nature and take a cautious approach when crossing a tricky section of road, including a difficult water crossing up there in the Himalayas. Now in this phase, let us look at some of the tips that you should follow when you are approaching any water crossing. And we will start with number 4. When you are at a tough water crossing, always get down and assess the situation to see whether it is safe to cross or not. To do this, you can walk through it. If you found the flow of the water is too aggressive, such as the depth is too much or even the bottom of the water crossing is mostly mud, sand, clay, submerged rocks, slime, logs or deep holes, then it becomes very tricky. As a caution, please note that water always looks shallower than it is. So you may need to use a stick or your legs to properly gauge the depth of it. If you found that the river is over knee deep or it is flowing too fast, then it is always better not to risk it and wait for it to calm down. Number 5, it is always better to let your engine cool down a bit before splashing the cold water on it. But why? Well, because the sudden change in temperature on the crankcase makes the engine go through a situation called thermal shock. Nowadays with modern motorcycles, the damages might not be evident immediately, but this can cause microscopic cracks which can increase over time and one day fail. Point number 6, it is always a good idea to unload the luggage and put it across the water crossing and then try to cross it. It is especially true for heavy flow water crossing and very helpful for those who are a first timer. Keep in mind that the loaded bike are much heavier and difficult to control, and a slip can submerge your bike under water or cause some injury. You also don't want your stuff to fall off in a water crossing. Consider if you have electronic gears on it and it falls under it and circuits are short. Similarly, point number 7, if someone is accompanying you such as a pillion or a co-passenger in the car, then they should get down and guide you through the water to pass through the chosen line of path of trickier portions of the water crossings. Point number 8. It is always a good idea to wait aside when you are in doubt and see how others are going through the water crossings. It will help you visualize a feasible path that you need to trace while crossing it. Also, if you can already see a defined path set in place by other travelers, then just stick to it. And tip number 9, riding on the car tracks may be the best way even if it happens to be the deepest part of the crossing. It is a very helpful trick, especially when you are crossing a riverbed with rocks. The car tracks mostly jams the rocks underneath with each other, and the probability of finding the loose pebbles is least in such paths. Point number 10, don't be shy and ask for help. Mountaineers and bikers are known to be helpful fraternities. So, don't be hesitant in approaching the other bikers or even the local villagers who will take out a few minutes from their day to ensure your safety. If you are stuck somewhere, others can guide you through a vantage point or may even come for a push. Now let us see what you should keep in mind when you are actually going through a water crossing. So tip number 11, needless to say, you need to be alert and always aware when you are in the middle of a water crossing. Reflex actions are very important in case of any change in calculated scenarios. It isn't tough, but you need to be vigilant always. This is where how much balance and control you have of your own bike will come very handy. Tip number 12, always maintain a steady speed or momentum once you start going through it. Well, if you stop in the middle or get stuck, it becomes difficult to get out or regain momentum, especially when it is a lot of water. The speed should also not be very fast because it may end up in very complicated scenarios. For example, you might splash water into your engine or exhaust vent, which will lead to your bike being stopped in the middle, or you may even hit a rock at a fast speed that can affect the balance of your bike and you may fall down. At the same time, speed should not be too slow. Snail-like speed can allow you control, but there is a risk that the bike stop in the middle of the stream. So my suggestion to you is that you start in the first gear and keep riding through it at a steady momentum. Tip number 13, you can sit steady to maintain the balance and keep your feet in the water, which will allow you to provide better control of the bike. Point number 14, when you are searching for a path, ensure that your route is as straight as possible. Maneuvering a bike through multiple bends with added challenge of water flow is a recipe of a disaster. Look through the rocks and debris and find a smooth shallow path through water to cross it. Also keep in mind that the water moves slower in deeper sections. Areas with broken water will be shallow but also rockier. So crossing upstream from the broken water should give you a clean line. Like I said before, you can also try to stay within the tire tracks of heavier vehicles like car or trucks to have a smooth path. Tip number 15, if the crossing is particularly fast flowing, the best approach is to start your journey on the motorcycle upstream and cross at an angle moving downstream. This trick will allow you to ride with the current instead of against it. Now, tip number 16, if the crossing seems very difficult, the best way to cross it is walk the bike. Now when I say walk the bike, I don't mean pushing it from one side getting off it. Rather what I mean is that just stand and use your throttle to steer the bike through the water crossing. This is the point where shoes with better grip makes more sense than waterproof shoes. Trying to push your bike from one side the way we are used to in normal road conditions won't be a great idea over here. As in most of the cases, when you throttle, the rear wheel will tend to move away from you because you are trying to pull the front towards you, and practically you don't have any control over the rear wheel. This fact gets very aggravated when in water crossings. Tip number 17, well, I should not say this, but for your safety, if at any moment you feel that you are losing balance or control and there is nothing that you can do about it, then the best thing is to let your bike go. Yes, I know that you might get water into the sensitive parts of your bike and a lot of work afterwards, but above everything, you don't want to dislocate your wrist or break your leg. The heavier the bike, the higher the chance of getting such an injury in this case. Finally, tip number 18, listen to your motorcycle, as sometimes we stubbornly tend to control our bikes and even our lives. But keep in mind that the motorcycle will always obey the laws of physics and not us. Now finally, let us look at the last two tips, which are about the part when you get across the water. Well, once you have crossed over the water, you will need to ensure that you thoroughly check your motorcycle, especially the underbelly and the brakes, to ensure that everything is in order. Once you inspect it properly, reload your stuff onto your motorcycle before embarking on the trip ahead. In the end, tip number 20, don't forget to take a breather once you are on the other side of a especially difficult water crossing. Change your shoes, dry out your socks, lie down a bit, take some photographs, eat that energy bar that you have. You earned it. Well, although I'll have a dedicated video about list of things to carry on a motorcycle trip to Ladakh, Spiti Valley or other remote corners of the Himalayas, but very briefly, let us look at some of the important things that you must carry from the perspective of water crossings in this video as well. Number 1 is the first aid kit. Do not ever forget to take your first aid kit when you are doing a bike ride up there in the Himalayas. It is especially important with the water crossing as you might get some bruises or cuts along the way. And if such a thing happens, quickly apply some ointments or band-aids on it. Number 2. Shoes with good grip and 4 to 5 pair of socks. Shoes are the most important thing when traveling on a motorcycle. Yes, waterproof shoes are great, but I truly believe grip comes over everything else. No matter how waterproof a shoe might be, when you are traversing a knee-deep water crossing, the water will seep through the lace vents, and once your inner socks are wet, everything else becomes meaningless. Well, me and my friends have tried everything from putting plastic bags till knee to an array of shoes, but they all had their fair advantages and disadvantages. Some bikers also prefer to carry a pair of gum boots as well and use them without any socks while crossing these water crossings. Again, there are some pros and cons to it as well. So the best thing in my experience is to always carry 4 to 5 pair of socks, and once you make the crossing, change the pair to a dry socks. Of course, before anything else, make sure you wipe out your feet dry. And lastly, do not forget your basic toolkit. Always keep the toolkit ready and dry up those spark plugs or engine vents as soon as you cross a difficult water crossing. Well, it is important and also gives you an opportunity to click some pictures of a water crossing you just conquered. So friends, this was all about tackling the water crossings on your motorcycles when traveling to Trans-Himalayan places like Ladakh, Spiti Valley, Zanskar Valley, Pangi Valley, etc. In my next video, similarly, I'll share some important tips and tricks for going for a cold weather motorcycle ride when traveling to places like Ladakh, Spiti Valley or other remote corners of the Himalayas. So stay tuned my friends, and I'll see you in my next video. And now in the end, if you found this video helpful, please do not forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And in case if you need any help or have any question on your upcoming trip to the Himalayas, please feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll be more than happy to help you out right away. Till then my friends, Jule, and please keep our Himalayas clean.